The moment I saw the account balance, I didn't scream, I didn't cry, and I certainly didn't panic. I simply froze, my mind racing to process the impossible reality of a zero where my life savings used to be. 3 weeks later, my phone lit up at 3:00 a.m. It was my nephew, Julian, sobbing so hard he could barely speak. "You ruined me. How could you do this to your own family?" he wailed. I took a slow breath, savoring the sound of his desperation. He thought he had won. He thought he could steal my future and buy himself a luxury life without consequences. But he forgot who he was dealing with. My retribution wasn't loud or violent. It was silent, legal, and absolute. Before we unravel this mess, please hit that subscribe button for Shattered Vengeance and comment below. What is the one thing you would never forgive a family member for doing? I sat rigid in the plush guest chair of my financial advisor's office. My eyes locked on the monitor. The portfolio balance read 0.0. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a market dip. It was a complete extraction. The transaction reports on the oak desk looked less like banking documents and more like a crime scene investigation. Every bond, every mutual fund, every blue chip stock I had nurtured for 40 years, liquidated, gone. All of it vanished between December 2nd and December 6th, precisely while I was away visiting my sister in Seattle. "David, walk me through the security logs again," I said, forcing my voice to remain clinical. 4 decades as a structural analyst had trained me to suppress emotion in favor of data. Panic causes bridges to collapse. Precision keeps them standing. David Ross, my advisor of 20 years, looked nauseous. "The transfers were authenticated, Arthur. Correct username, valid password. Answers to the security questions were perfect. The funds moved to your primary checking, then were drafted as cashier's checks." He spun the monitor. 6 transfers, 5 days. The fraud algorithm stayed silent because, technically, it looked like you were the one doing it. But I wasn't. I leaned in, scrutinizing the timestamps. 9:47 a.m., 2:15 p.m., 11:23 a.m., all banking hours, all while I was thousands of miles away. "Who else has your digital keys?" David asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the tragic answer. "3 people, I replied. "Me, my late wife Eleanor, and Julian. Julian, my nephew, my sister's son. The 28-year-old I had allowed into my home, into my life, and into my trust. I had given him emergency access codes after my hip replacement, surgery last winter, a fail-safe in case I was incapacitated. He had been living in my basement suite for a year and a half, trying to find himself after a layoff in the marketing sector. I had treated him like the son Eleanor, and I never had. "I need to file a fraud affidavit," David said softly. "But Arthur, you need to know. Familial theft is a nightmare to prosecute when the access was granted voluntarily." I drove back to the suburbs through a blinding sleet storm. The gray sky mirrored the hollowness in my chest. $210,000. My freedom. My security. The legacy I intended to leave for my nieces. All of it vaporized. I pulled into the driveway. Julian's battered Ford Focus was parked in its usual spot, rust eating the wheel wells. Lights blazed from the basement windows. The heavy bass of trap music vibrated the driveway asphalt. I entered my silent, empty house. The quiet was heavier without Eleanor there to break it. She would have been devastated. She adored Julian. That adoration was the weapon he used to gut me. I dialed the non-emergency police line. Detective Miller arrived just after dinner. He was a weary man, cynical eyes scanning my dining room. Clearly having seen this narrative play out 100 times before, he reviewed the bank logs and sighed. "Mr. Sterling, I'll be blunt. You gave him the keys. In the eyes of the law, this is a civil dispute, not a robbery, unless we find proof of identity theft or coercion. He took money from an account he had permission to enter." He closed his notebook. "Banks hate these cases. They say you authorize the user, so the loss is yours. The courts are backed up for years. And even if you sue and win, you can't get blood from a stone. If he spends the cash, it's gone. So I just let him walk?" Miller shook his head. "I didn't say that. I'm saying the criminal code might not be your best tool right now. Get a shark of a lawyer. Document every breath he takes. People who steal this much this fast get sloppy. Let him hang himself." He handed me a card and left. I went to the basement door. The music was still shaking the floorboards. I unlocked it and walked down. Julian was sprawled on my old leather sofa, scrolling on his phone, looking at what appeared to be luxury watches. He jumped when he saw me. "Uncle Art, you're back early." A micro-expression crossed his face, panic, instantly masked by a practiced, charming grin. "Everything okay?" He clicked his phone off but didn't set it down. "My investment accounts were liquidated while I was in Seattle," I said, watching his hands. His eyes went wide, too wide. "What? No way." "That's terrible. Did you get hacked?" I analyzed him. Structural integrity is about spotting stress fractures. Julian was full of them. The sweat on his brow, the way he wouldn't meet my gaze. The fact that he didn't ask how much was missing. "The bank says the login came from a recognized device. My credentials." "That's crazy," he said, his voice rising an octave. "Who would do that? Maybe it was a phishing scam. Did you click a weird link? Julian, you are the only person on earth with those codes." He shot up from the couch, defensive posturing in full swing. "Whoa, stop right there. You're accusing me? After I've been here helping you? Taking care of the house?" He put a hand to his chest, feigning heartbreak. "I can't believe this. I would never touch your money." "Then you won't mind if the detectives dust for prints and check your browser history?" His face drained of color. "You called the cops? On family?" "I reported a crime. They will follow the evidence." "This is toxic," he spat, grabbing his jacket. "I don't have to sit here and be insulted. I've been nothing but a good nephew. I'm staying at Sarah's place tonight. Don't call me until you're ready to apologize." He stormed out. I heard the Ford peel out of the driveway. I stood in the center of his messy apartment. Pizza boxes, laundry, empty beer cans. But then I saw the anomalies. A brand new 4K monitor, a designer bomber jacket with the tag still on, retail, $400, a receipt on the floor, for a high-end steakhouse dinner for 6 people. I took out my phone. I started a log. Timeline, Deck 2 to 6, Julian alone in house. Deck 7, Discovery. Deck 8, Confrontation. I photographed the room, the new goods. Then I went upstairs. 40 years of analyzing load-bearing walls taught me one thing. If you apply pressure to the weak point, the whole building comes down. Julian had made his first error by fleeing. Now I just had to wait for him to get careless. I hired Catherine Lewis the next morning. Her office was in a steel skyscraper, the kind that smelled of money and intimidation. She was sharp, ruthless, and expensive. "Familial fraud is messy," she said, reviewing my file. "But we have leverage. Authorized access implies a fiduciary responsibility, not a license to loot. We can sue for conversion and breach of trust. But first, we need to know where the assets went." "How do we find it?" "We hire a specialist," she said. "Frank Russo, forensic investigator. He tracks hidden assets. It won't be cheap." "Do it," I said. I wrote a retainer check for $15,000 from my separate emergency fund money Eleanor had made me keep secret, thank God. "Prepare yourself, Arthur," Catherine warned. "He will lie. He will claim it was a gift. He will claim you are senile. It will get ugly." I don't care about ugly. I care about results. That night, Julian texted, "Uncle Art, I'm worried about you. You seem confused. Can we talk?" I didn't reply. 2 days later, he came to the door. I watched from the window. He looked frazzled. He knocked, waited, then left a note. "I love you, Uncle Art. Please don't let money ruin our family." I bagged the note as evidence. Frank Russo called me on December 18th. "Mr. Sterling, come to my office. You're going to want to see this." Frank was an ex-detective, built like a vending machine and just as hard. He tossed a manila folder onto his desk. "Your nephew isn't exactly a criminal mastermind," Frank grunted. He pointed to a photo. December 9th, Julian at a dealership, standing next to a jet black Porsche Macan. "He bought it?" I asked, disgusted. "Bought it?" He put $35,000 down and financed the rest. Picked it up 3 days later. Frank dealt another photo like a playing card. December 14th, he closed on a property, a cabin near Lake Geneva. Purchase price $390,000 down. Payment $60,000. I stared at the photo. It was a beautiful A-frame cottage, the exact type Eleanor, and I had talked about buying for years, but decided was too extravagant. "That's nearly $100,000 in 2 weeks," I said. "Where is the rest?" "Stashed," Frank said. "Or he's burning it on lifestyle." He opened a spreadsheet. "Here is the flow. December 7th, $95,000 hits his personal checking. December 8th, $85,000 goes to a new online savings account. Then the spending spree starts. Legal fees for the house, furniture, electronics. He thinks he's safe, I muttered. He thinks you're a powerless old man, Frank corrected. He thinks the civil courts are too slow to catch him. In his mind, he's already won. A cold resolve settled in my gut. It wasn't anger anymore. It was engineering. I had identified the structural flaw. Now I needed to apply the load. What about his income, I asked. 0, Frank said. He's been unemployed for 8 months. No pay stubs. No tax filings. His girlfriend Sarah is a receptionist. There is no legitimate way he explains this cash. I drove home and opened my laptop. I built a spreadsheet. Assets stolen, $210,000. Assets deployed by Julian, $115,000. Balance remaining, $95,000. My daughter Claire called from Boston. Dad, Julian called me. He says you've gone off the deep end. He says you're accusing him of theft and refusing to speak to him. What is going on? I told her everything. The timeline. The Porsche. The cabin. Silence, then, oh my God. I felt sorry for him. Dad, I am so sorry. What are we going to do? We are going to take it all back. Christmas week arrived. Catherine called me with an update from the forensic accountant. Arthur, we found something the IRS would find fascinating. Julian reported an income of $22,000 last year from unemployment benefits. He has 0 reported income this year, yet he just dropped 6 figures in cash in under a month. So he's tax evading, I said. Technically, she said, unreported income is a major red flag. The IRS has a whistleblower program, Form 3949A. If you report suspected tax fraud, they investigate. If they find he's living beyond his means with no declared source, they audit him. And they don't need a court order to freeze assets. Send me the link, I said. That night I filled out the digital form. Taxpayer Julian Patterson. Allegation unreported income. Cash purchases exceeding $115,000 with no employment. Evidence attached. Photos of the Porsche, the cabin deed, the bank transfers. I hit submit. Phase 1 initiated. Christmas Eve, Julian showed up. He left gifts on the porch. A bottle of expensive bourbon, a scarf. A card that read, to Uncle Art, I miss you. Let's fix this. I put the gifts in the garage unopened. Claire flew in with the grandkids. We ate dinner, but the empty chair where Julian usually sat felt like a scar. My granddaughter asked where he was. He made some bad choices, sweetie, was all I said. On December 26th, Frank emailed me. Found another one. The girlfriend, Sarah. She just walked around with a new diamond ring. Appraised at $9,000, cash purchase. More of my retirement, turned into jewelry for his accomplice. I spent New Year's Eve alone organizing files. I labeled every photo, every receipt. I was building a dossier that would bury him. January hit with a brutal deep freeze. On January 9th, Frank called. The IRS opened a file. They sent a letter to his address on record, which is still your basement. By the way, I checked the mail. There it was. Official government correspondence. I didn't open it, that's a felony, but I knew what it was. A request for verification of income sources. He has 30 days to explain where he got the money. Frank laughed. He can't say I stole it because that admits to the civil suit. He can't say I earned it because he didn't pay taxes on it. He's checkmated. Catherine filed the lawsuit on January 15th. Plaintiff Arthur Sterling. Defendant Julian Patterson. Claims conversion, fraud, unjust enrichment. Damages, $10,000 plus punitive fees. A process server caught Julian at his new lake house. Frank sent me the photos. Julian in a silk robe, looking confused, then terrified as he read the summons. Sarah stood behind him, looking pale. That night the call came. You sued me? Julian screamed. I am your family. You gave me that money. You said it was for helping you. I never said that, I replied calmly. You're lying. You're senile. I'll tell the judge you're losing your mind. I'll bring doctors. You'll look like a bitter old man. See you in court, Julian. I blocked his number. The IRS letter must have reached him, or his lawyer, because things accelerated. On February 8th, a lawyer named Mr. Keat called me. Mr. Sterling, I represent your nephew. We need to discuss a settlement. Litigation is costly. My terms are simple, I said. Full repayment, immediately. That's impossible, Keat said smoothly. The funds are tied up in assets. However, my client is distressed by this IRS audit. If you were to withdraw your complaint, I can't withdraw the truth, I said. I reported a suspicion. The investigation is out of my hands. You are destroying a young man's future, Keith said, his voice hardening. No, I said. He did that when he authorized the first transfer. I hung up. Catherine called 10 minutes later. Keith called me too. They are panicking. The IRS is demanding a source of funds audit. If Julian can't prove the money is clean, they hit him with penalties, interest, and potential jail time for evasion. If he admits he took it from you to satisfy the IRS, he hands us a win in the lawsuit. He is trapped in a vice. March arrived with freezing rain, the kind of weather that made Toronto gray and miserable.
Gary,